when they arrived, they must have wondered where they were coming to, as we already know. Tonfanau was a long way away from anywhere. The poor things, when they came off the train and from off the buses that had brought them from London, they were very bedraggled and very tired and frightened. I would put some of them were frightened as to wonder where they landed. The government made an appeal for volunteers, and looking at the situation, you couldn't help but not want to volunteer, do something.
Yeah.
It's like present day. I think
if you had a heart at all, you wanted to do something after seeing them all coming off the train, the little children, the parents trying to pull them along and getting off in the dark, and it's cold. It was raining.
It was raining.
It was September, but we kind of some wonderful weather in September, but it really was.
That night wasn't.
Cold and miserable, and it rained as well, and of course into a dark station. And the fact the soldiers were there was just that really, I'm sure, would finish me off, you know, to know what to come into when there was somebody in uniform. But there were a lot of people directing them straight into the hangar for hot drinks and food and welcome, and obviously they were speaking to them and telling them what to expect and taking them to their cabins. I had nothing to do with that, but that was, they were taken into for food and drink, and we were sort of happy with that.
I wouldn't say there was a recognised welcoming party, but there were plenty of people offering to help bring them to off the train and take them to their accommodation that had been arranged, had been sorted out and brought up to a standard that it could be done so quickly. I was part of that party that welcomed them off the train and took them to the various accommodation that they had been arranged.
It must have been a great shock for them all to come to this part after coming through cities in the train and lots of lights, and then come to Tonfanau and no street lighting, no nothing. So it was really a very, very sad sight.
I think Idi Amin could see that they were more business-like and more organised and making money out of his country, which he wanted for his countrymen. That was the idea of getting rid of the Asians.
A nurse down at the bottom of the road, she was a district nurse who lived down at the bottom of our road, and she was telling us about it. Now we thought, would it be an idea if we done something about it? So we talked about it as a family, and I came up to the camp, and they were very happy to have it. There was a nurse, Miss Beard from Aberystwyth, actually was there and already planned and opened up the medical unit. So I was able to be there for quite a while. As a volunteer, of course, yes. I don't know whether she was a volunteer or paid by the authorities, I don't know. But I was certainly a volunteer. And I soon met quite a lot of people. It was the GP, local GPs were very good. They seen a lot of people in the very early days, but then after that, we had a permanent doctor, Dr. Jim Diamond, who'd come back from India, and he was taken on as a permanent doctor for those time to cover, and we became very good friends, him and his wife, and strangely enough, it's not a name you could ever forget. He was Dr. Jim Diamond, and she was Ruby Diamond.
We had cold weather, and they'd come from a hot country.
Yes.
Certainly warmer than Wales in September.
They become poorly quite quickly, some of them. Yeah. But if they wanted extra care, they'd come to us. If the district nurses couldn't look after them or advise them, families come up quite regularly to the medical centre for various things. One particular gentleman I know, he was quite elderly, and he wanted false teeth. And of course, as I say, there's a lot of volunteers going around the camp and advising them what they're entitled to and what they weren't entitled to, or mainly what they were entitled to. And of course, dental care and that come into it, but it's just how human nature, you know, probably over the top in some cases, but he wanted dentures, and when I looked in his mouth, he hadn't had two dentures in for 70 years. You know, he's no gums. So it was that type of thing that, if it's a bit harsh at times, you know, saying, you know, you really, it's we can't just do that so easily. I got to know some of the parents, and children as they came into the medical unit, and I did have a nice gift. In fact, I had two gifts, but I can't remember what the other one was, and I don't have it anymore. I must have lost it. But I had a nice,
pendant.
A pendant. It was very basic, but it was very special because...
You still have it?
Yeah, I still have it in my hand.
And you still wear it?
Well, after years ago. I wear it regularly, and I didn't put it on today. It's gold, and it was handmade. A regular family that used to come up to the medical centre for
They
various...
appreciated the care they were given.
Little things, and they appreciated how welcome they were made. And this family gave me this when they were leaving. I do treasure it, yes. And it was 50, I've got a 50 years now.
50 years?
They were wealthy people, a lot of them.
A lot of them are well,
and highly
well
educated, really, in their own field. But I think a lot of professional people, I was told, were taken off in London, and doctors and everything else, the professionals were taken off in a lot of them stopped off in London. Now, obviously there was a need, and they could cope with them down in that, they're probably more likely to get jobs.
We did hear of stories where one family had actually were jewellers, and they tossed all their jewellery into the river because they knew they wouldn't get it through the customs or the checks that were going about. There was one lady that you remember, she hid her jewellery in her hair, and she was able to get away with it because they didn't touch her hair. They actually, you know, may have touched her body or certainly searched her that way, but they didn't touch her hair, so she was able to keep her jewellery. And another explained to us, they put all their money into a suitcase, but they were only allowed one suitcase, and they had to get out very, very quickly and left the suitcase behind. So all their money was in the suitcase for somebody else just to pick up and walk away with it. Our hotel was being gutted, really, putting new floors in, electricity, but I did bring two young lads. They were round about 17 or 18, back to our hotel. Fed them, obviously, during the day, but they were able to look and see that type of business, which they weren't, you know, akin to out in Uganda. But he gave them a day away from the trauma of the camp, and they quite enjoyed that. We got to know them quite well. And I think it was one of those that may have given you some jewellery. Coming up to Christmas, we wanted to do something for them. They said, can we take them to a pantomime? Well, a pantomime, nearest one in those days would be Birmingham. And I said, well, we had to explain that the finances that we had just wouldn't stretch to being able to take them. I mean, we're talking of quite a few people, hundreds, really. We just couldn't take them to Birmingham to see a pantomime. But we did arrange a party for them at Christmas. And I recall putting up bunting and putting up flags and different things to make it a more party atmosphere. Mm. And that went ahead very well, and it was well received. They were dispersed fairly quickly. It was only a matter of months rather than years. We enjoyed helping out at Tonfanau with the camp.